few minutes delay. I don't know what's going on with this computer. It was acting crazy, but we are up and we are live. So I am so excited to do this first live with you guys. Okay. I am super duper duper excited. And I want to just say, I'm happy y'all are here. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. So, as promised, we are going to talk about some denim, sustainable fashion, tools that you need to use, all of those wonderful things, right? So, I'm going to get in here and try to make sure that everything is good. I don't have anybody in yet, so I'm going to be patient, especially since we had to kind of start a little later. I also want to make sure that everybody can hear me and all of that good stuff. Um, but I'm very excited. So, although nobody's in, I'm going to go ahead and just start. Um, Talking about sustainable fashion and just introduce myself to you all and who I am and how long I've been sewing and all of that good stuff. Um, and give me just a moment because I think it is on pause. All right. So I'm going to need to take it off a pause. I think it was pausing for about 5 minutes because there was some type of technical delay on YouTube. So I'm trying to see if I can get it back up and running and we won't have that problem. And hopefully, in this countdown, we'll be able to get it fixed. So while I'm waiting for this countdown, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself. My name is Denisha Sylvester, so better known, affectionately known as Miss D. I have been sewing ever since I was 5, okay? And I am 45 now. So I've been sewing a pretty long time. I'm pretty much self taught most of my life because um, I have a mother that was sewing, and growing up, there's 8 of us. My mother sewed, and of course, she did what I like to call survival sewing because she needed to make sure that our clothes would continually fit for her to hand them down to the next person, if you know what I mean. So I probably have some moms that'll be watching this and coming on. So we're going to be talking about all of those types of things and things that you can make that will help you to sustain your clothing longer for your children, for yourself, because of course we know that everything is going up and up and up and up, and we want to be able to keep our money and wear what we already have and redo our closets. So, like I said, I've been sewing for well over 20 years. My first actual sewing job, I made sails for sailboats, which was an exciting thing. So, I got skill from that. And I also learned how to do things that were more technical and more commercial. So, with that, it made a little difference. So, what we're going to do is talk about first how to clean your denim. When you're getting your denim from thrift stores, secondhand, somebody giving it to you, that kind of thing. Some denim, if it's heavily soiled, you're going to have to soak it first in some warm water, get you some white vinegar and some baking soda. You're going to let it sit overnight. Now, if it has a terrible smell, really bad smell to it, then you're actually going to go in and you're going to put that baking soda on it. No water, just put the baking soda on it and allow the baking soda to actually start absorbing that odor. So the next morning when you wake up, what's going to happen is it's going to have absorbed that odor, and now you can actually do your vinegar process and wash it. Another thing with distressing, you want to distress your denim before you do all the other stuff and start sewing with it, which means that all of the cutting, tearing, all that kind of stuff we're going to do. I'm going to show you how to do it today. I'm going to show you what tools we're using, all that kind of stuff. You want to do that. And when you wash it, one tip you want to remember, do not use any fabric softener. Fabric softener is going to make it harder for you to distress it. After you get done doing all your rips, all your tears, all that stuff, then you can go back in and then do your fabric softener when you're washing it to really get that distressing looking very good. Now, I distress with different tools, and it's going to depend on the look you're wanting and what you're wanting to do, which tools you're going to actually use. So we're going to talk about all that. I've got a full set here, and we're going to talk about everything that you would use based on what you're doing. I'm also going to go ahead and get some denim off of my table, and that's my little spot there. I'm going to get some denim off the table, and I'm going to bring it back over so that we can talk about it and how to start ripping things and all that good stuff. Because I have a 10-year-old that actually is what we call a husky young man, and has outgrown some of his things, but it's still good. So what I've been doing is remaking his clothes, like putting the denim jacket with a sweater that he can't wear anymore, that type of thing. So when we have our denim, I'm going to grab this pair of pants here, and we're going to start talking about how we're going to distress it now, and what tools we're going to use to start breaking into it, cutting it, and actually breaking our denim down. So once it's cleaned, it's all good, it's ready to go. Now, when you start going in your seams, a lot of people, they just go in and they're just cutting, but they don't think about, what am I making with the denim? So what cuts should I be doing? Now, you see where you have the seam here. A lot of times, if you cut right here in it, when you get ready to sew it to something else, then you have to stitch on top of it, which some people don't have a heavy duty machine. I have industrial machines, regular machines, computerized machines. I have a whole studio of machines, but most people don't have all that. So what you're going to do, instead of cutting on this seam right here, you're going to give yourself about a half an inch, right? So when you cut it, now I like to go ahead and actually cut the bottom off too, because you can reuse that. But for the sake of the video, I'm just going to go ahead and actually cut into it and leave the hem on here for now. So when we cut into it, you're going to cut the side of the seam, the welt seam, you're going to cut on this side of it. Okay. And from the inside, you'll be able to tell on the welt is finished here, and that's where the fabric has come over and been tucked in, and the top stitch is done. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to cut on the side there, and you're going to give yourself about a half of an inch. So now when you actually get ready to sew this and attach this to something, guess what you now have? A seam allowance. And when you start connecting it to something else, guess what? It's going to be easy to sew it back. Let's say we're attaching it to this piece of fabric here. When we're sewing that seam now, We don't have to sew on this big thick part here. All we're going to do is attach it like this. We'll get our pins, we'll pin it, all that good stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pin it as if we were stitching it so that you can see what happened. So now, if we actually sewn it together, when you stitch it, you're going to stitch and do what we call this stitch in the ditch. And now, when you put it together, it will look like it was meant to be that way, right? So you see how now you don't have to fight with trying to stitch on top of here. You can actually continue to use the original way the denim was, which is great because nobody wants to lose that original look, and that stitching also looks very good and we want to keep it that way, right? So the next thing that we like to use, of course, that's one tool, is our scissors. Scissors are always our best friend, right? So I'm going to cut all the way up so I can actually start showing you some of the other tools. Now, I also have a blade cutter, okay? So this is super cool. I love how it's curved, which allows you to really get into the seam when you are ripping seams apart, okay? So the great thing about this is you got it open, you can take it, go down. I like to go ahead and start opening it up a little bit so I can see where my knife is actually going to cut, and then I'll go in and I'll start cutting just a little bit. And now I'm in, and then I keep on cutting down. And it's so easy. It's just like a seam ripper. However, it's much sharper. Okay. So this is super cool, much sharper to use. And immediately, look at that. Nice and clean. You got it out. Next, of course, we have our traditional seam ripper, and most people don't use them the right way. So I'm going to show you the proper way to use your seam ripper and which one, because a lot of people say, well, how do I know what seam ripper to use? This one is for your thinner, smaller fabrics, your satins, your brocades, all of those that are very lightweight fabrics. You want to use this one because if you're using this one, what it's not going to do is poke big holes in your fabric, because your fabric is already thinner, it's already lightweight, and you don't want to poke any holes in your fabric in error or cut your fabric like that. So when we're using denim, we're going to use our large seam ripper because it's going to be important to use the large seam ripper. Now, the proper way to use it is this red ball acts as the stopper, kind of. So when we put it in, we're going to run it through our fabric this way, not like this, because that's how we end up cutting our fabric in error. So we're going to go again to that same seam that we started with our small little blade. Now we're going to turn our seam ripper upside down, and then we're going to run that seam ripper right through. Another thing, and when we do it, it goes right on through. We'll open it up a little more. We'll find where that thread is, and then we're going to run it through again. Boom, boom, pow, like that. All right, so now we got that open. Another thing to remember about your seam rippers, they can go dull. Excuse me, guys, I'm finally trying to see if I can see everybody and get everything up so I can see um, any comments or anything. So I appreciate everyone's patience and being on with me. So leave me a message and let me know where you're from. If you're sewing today while you're watching, I want to know what you're doing, because now we are going to be a sew family, okay? So I love to say we're a fashion family. So let me know where you're from and all of that good stuff. And when you started sewing, I started sewing at 5. So let me know when you started sewing and what your favorite thing to sew is. So I will wait to see your messages and all that good stuff. Um, until it comes up with my back office. For some reason, it's just not coming up for me. But we're going to keep on moving because we got things to do. We got things to learn. So we're going to keep on moving and shaking. Okay. So next thing is thank you so much. Hi from Texas. And you don't know anything. So let me tell you, I love it. So this channel is a channel for you. If you don't know anything, you're definitely going to learn something and you can start sewing. Everybody, anybody can sew. I always say I've taught over 400 people to sew. And I'm going to tell you that I teach 5-year-olds to sew. So you can sew and believe it. You can get this done. It's not as hard as it looks, even though it looks very challenging. Okay, so the next thing, which I love, for many years when I first started sewing, I worked under a master alterationist. And this is what I learned to take things apart with is a razor blade. I always say now, if you're not in the big leagues, do not, and I'll repeat, do not try this at home if you are not in the big leagues, okay? Because I don't want nobody losing fingers because you need your fingers to sew with, okay? But this is like my best friend. I love a razor blade. It gets things done very quick, very fast, okay? I love the razor blade. You get it in, you get gone, and whatever you need is done. Another reason I like the razor blade too is because on some denim, we have to remember that denim is made by a machine. Okay, so it's not a person making this. That's why it's so hard to take denim apart when you start wanting to break it down. So you definitely have got to get something that may be a little heavier besides your scissors to cut things apart. And some parts of the denim you may not want to just chop off because you want to use it. So that's where the razor blade comes in at, and also your little small blade. Now, I will get the name of this and put this in the section, the comment section, because I actually got this from China. Okay. As a sewing teacher in my studio, I provide everything my students need so that they will not have to go out and buy, because I live in Jacksonville and we are what I call a fashion desert. There's no fabric stores here, and it's not the same. Even recently with Joann's closing, we don't even have Joann's anymore. And Michael's, all those stores, they're not actually catered to sewists and people who are designing. So a lot of things they just do not carry. So I'm also going to do more videos every week. I'm going to come on talking about places you can go to buy things. Thank you so much. To go buy things online, where to find things, all that good stuff. So the next thing, like I said, our razor blades are super important. Now, another thing that I love to use when I'm just distressing is a metal brush. Okay, believe it or not, a lot of this stuff is already in your house in your toolbox, right? And let me go back before I go with this metal brush right quick. When you are taking it out, depending on what tool you use, once you actually start getting the seam out, because it is made on a machine, you don't have to chop, chop, chop. You can actually start pulling it. And a lot of times it'll come all the way apart where it's like this. Like sometimes when you have something that you're wearing and you notice you'll pull that thread and then the whole thing rips off. Once you can find where it is and it's not connected on a lot of different pairs of jeans, depending on the brand, you're going to automatically be able to really cut through it and just tear it right off, which is going to save you so much time and so much headache, because the cleanup and the aftermath sometimes is not good. You got a lot of cleaning up and picking to do. And sometimes I just take my razor blade and I'll just kind of do like this. And as you can see, it really helps move that thread from being stuck down in there, and it'll get it on off. So it's nice and clean. So you can do that. But our metal brush is another great thing that you can use to get your things distressed. Okay. So the metal brush, depending on your denim, It's, you can use this after you're kind of done, just to give it a fuzzy feel. Some people like to distress their denim where it gives it a nice fuzzy feel, and I like that fuzzy feel sometimes. And I'm going to kind of use the metal brush and kind of scrape on this. My son and I, we did some fun bleaching this weekend, but you can see kind of where the texture is really softening up. This denim is kind of hard. So when you take that metal brush, it's just going to soften your denim. Depending on what you're doing, maybe you want to make, I have great nieces and nephews that are babies. They're like 7 and 8 months old, and I may want to make them something denim, but I need it to be softer. So depending on the weight of your denim, it comes in many different weights. So depending on the weight of your denim, you may want to do that a little bit just to soften it, just to give it a little softener. The next thing that I love to use is a sander. Yes, you can sand this denim down, honey, and they have this at the Dollar Tree for a buck. 125. You can get this. Now if you like me, I got a wood shop in the back of my house. I got all kind of stuff. I got my own toolbox. I just love sewing and doing stuff. So you can go on and get your sander, and guess what? Your sander is going to do the same thing. You take that and you just go ahead and sand that thing down, and boom, bang, pow, you're getting the same effect. Okay, now the sanders come in different grits, so you may want to get a grittier, heavier grit so that you can actually sand down much better. So it's going to depend on what you want to use when it comes to that. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is, when I start sewing denim, what are the right needles to put in my machine, and how can I still get that same look that is sewn on here with that double needle? So that is called a twin needle. All right, and it comes in different widths. So you got your fourth, your half an inch, even a 1 inch one. And when you put it in your sewing machine, it actually has a top that goes in like a regular single needle, but it is double there, as you can see. And this is going to allow you, when you're sewing, to recreate that flat felt seam that's going to look really good, depending on what you're making and how you've had to kind of change things around with the design of whatever you're sewing. Now they all want to fall out. They all want to come out and say hey to y'all. So everybody can't come out. But now this is the smaller one, and this is I think that was the 3/4. This is our half an inch here, and it comes in a 3-pack. Most of these things you can get on Amazon. Like I said, I'll wait the time because I have to buy so many supplies. So a lot of times I'm going to wait out that month or 3 weeks and just get it off of Temu or one of those sites, because I need so much. And I'm not in an area where I can just go to a store and buy the supplies that I need. So if you're in an area where you can just walk in, you are blessed and highly favored, honey. You better praise God. Hallelujah. Because that is not me. I got to struggle down here. Okay. Now, moving on to the next thing, is our heavy duty needles. Okay. Our heavy duty. You can use a heavy duty needle to start sewing with, and you can also use a microtech. I love microtech needles because they are extremely sharp at the end, and the way they are shaped allows them to really get down in those heavy places, the little small inside those fibers, so that it can really stitch really well. Another thing is, you may want to, once you put your seams together and you're doing that top stitching, you may want to use a top stitch needle. What a top stitch needle will do is allow that thread to sit on top and not really go all the way down. And that's why on our denim, again, we can really see all of those stitches and how that thread really sits on the top. So that's what a top stitch needle is going to help you do. The last needle that you use is, of course, a jean needle. Okay, you can use jean needles. Jean needles are meant to sew jeans with. There's also another one you can use is an upholstery needle. All of these needles have something in common. They are made for heavier duty fabrics. So if your denim is thinner, like a chambray or something like that, then no, you don't need this. You can use your multi-purpose needle and everything. Back in the day, when I first started sewing, a lot of times people did not change their needles a lot because needles were very expensive to buy for their machines. But now machine needles are not that expensive. You can have your full collection for what you need. And honestly, I've been designing, I do wedding gowns, from wedding gowns to upholstery. One thing that makes your project look better is when you use the right needles and the right threads. Don't live your life being an all-purpose girl. You got to come up, honey. You got to come all the way up. Yesterday's price is not today's price. If you're going to sew, you might as well do it right, right? All right. So now that we've cleaned our denim, we did all of that good stuff. Now, well, what is it going to look like, Miss D? Yeah, y'all in class now, right? What is it going to look like? Well, what it's going to look like is this. After you cut it, depending on what you want to do, you cut it, whatever you did to distress it. I also use a Dremel tool, and I'm going to do a different video about really how to use that Dremel tool and all of the different attachments to get a different look, okay? But once you distress it, that's the reason why I say distress it before you start putting your pieces together. What that also does is as you're sewing and creating, it allows you to cut different pieces, different ways. Like this piece is bleached. Like you can cut it, oh, whatever way I like the bleach. I like the way the bleach looks here. So I'm going to lay this piece down and that piece down. Because once you already do your projects, number one, you can't go back and bleach it unless you want everything bleached. And sometimes for me personally, because I sew for hire, I have clients that come in and I'm making them custom things. I want everything before I start sewing their garment to be done and clean. I don't want to have to bleach stuff and then give it to them. I want to make sure it's got enough time for all that bleach and everything to be out. And please make sure you don't forget your hydrogen peroxide to put it in there after you bleached it, so it will stop the process of that bleach still bleaching, because what it will do is it'll start to eat your denim away, and you don't want that to happen, especially if you're giving it to someone they've purchased it. But as you can see, when you put it in the washing machine and the dryer, then you're going to see that there's going to be different textures and different things are going to pop up, and you can distress it even more if you don't like how much it did or whatever. You can take your metal, and they have actually heavier metal brushes that you can actually use as well. So you can pick and choose what you feel is the best when you're distressing. But the main thing is to really have fun with it and enjoy yourself when you're doing it, because you want your things to just look good. The next tip I have, and if anybody is sewing right now, let me know what you're sewing, because I'll be curious to know what you're making while you're watching. So the next thing is, when we do have our pieces that we cut, right? So we've cut our denim, we started to cut it, thinking about what are we going to make with it. So I'm going to show you how I actually just break down a full pair of jeans when I don't know what I'm going to make with it. So you might not know what you're going to make with it yet. If you know exactly what you're going to make with it, I always say draw it out. I don't care if you sketch good, sketch bad, whatever. Just go ahead, draw it out so that you can start cutting your pieces the way that you have thought about that design in your mind. Because if you don't, then a lot of times you'll cut it and then you'll have all these pieces that you're not using and you may not be happy with them. And we don't want that to happen. We want you to be happy with everything that you're doing and not have to take so much time. So another thing, some of the denim, when you have them, they will have the grommets and everything is put in on the machine where they'll have those little, what I like to call the stabilizers. Well, it'll be hard and you can't cut past it. Anytime you find, let me see, I don't think I have, give me a second, let me check and see if I have a pair that might have the side where I can show you what that will look like, because sometimes you have to cut it a different way. Well, we don't, but I'm going to show you what this is too, so that you'll be able to see what my little project is that I told you about me working with for my son. Okay. So, and that's a jacket that, well, cape that I'm doing. Sorry about that. I lost the signal, y'all. I'm back. But I love when it gets cool because I get to layer and wear a lot of different things. I can put stuff together. However, getting back to the side. So again, when you're cutting, make sure that if you're wanting to save your pockets, then you're going to cut over here, right? So that you have that full 1/2 inch seam. Now, our 1/2 inch seam allowance is what us designers do. We do a 1/2 inch seam allowance when we're making our patterns. Now, if you're sewing with a pattern, the commercial patterns, the standard seam allowance for them is 5/8 of an inch. And we will do some things we can sew with patterns, and I will also teach you guys how to read patterns extremely well. Now, when I'm taking my waistband apart, maybe you want to reuse the waistband, the full waistband again. So what we're not going to do is just chop down the sides. That's when we're going to take our time. We're going to either use the razor or a seam ripper and go ahead and rip the actual full waistband off. Take the button loops. If you want to keep them, then that's where you're going to take your time and actually go ahead and take them apart at the bottom. Now, this is the challenge when you're doing that, is using that razor or getting something hard enough to get down in that seam to really get that belt loop from being attached. And see how that razor got it from being attached, and it kind of left the jean still good and clear. And we'll pull out the thread and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. And you see how nice and clean that still looks. So now you can reuse this. So you're taking off the whole waistband. Same thing with your pockets. If you're wanting to reuse it and not actually cut into the leg, this is really how you're saving your denim. When you're talking about sustainable, being able to reuse all of the parts of your denim, deconstructing it right is how you're going to be able to use all of it, and you don't have all of those denim pieces left over that you cannot use as a whole piece for something. Same thing. You're going to take your time, go in there, and you're going to start cutting those threads. Get those threads cut, and you'll be able to take the full pocket off and reuse the entire pocket. Another reason I like taking the pockets off is because when they do the wash and they come from the manufacturer, usually there's like a two-toneness in that leftover denim that I love, that there's a two-toneness left there. So that's also really cool for you to be able to use it that way. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Please subscribe and hit the like button, okay? And before I go, I'm going to show you what my project is. So next week, when we do a live, I'm going to come on and show you what I did with these two pieces. So my son has a pair of pants that he loves that has this graffiti print, and he wants to keep wearing these, and they are just too little. We're not doing that, okay? We're not doing that. So I'm going to use the pants leg as a sleeve. See that? I'm going to use it as a sleeve on his denim jacket that he has outgrown. So the sleeves are not long enough for him, and he needs about 4 more inches in there. So I'm going to go ahead and remake this, and I'll be back next week to show you how it looked. And I will post a video as well on how I get this done, and I'll show you that. And then I have a sustainable collection that I just did, and we'll talk about some parts of denim that I used, and I'll show you that. So if there's something you want to know, please go ahead, let me know. I'll be happy to do a video about it. I'm going to do lives mostly because I teach a lot, and a lot of times I don't have time to edit videos. So I figure that lives will be the easiest way for me to go ahead and do it and get it done. All right. So we will sew live a lot of times, and I'll talk to you about what I use to get different things done with denim. So for the next 3 or 4 lives, we'll probably be talking about all denim and what we do with denim and what we can make with denim. So tag me, share the things that you're making. I would love to see you. You can find me on all platforms at So Fun Jax sewing classes, and have a so-tastic day. Thank you for watching again, and stay so-tastic. Bye, everybody.